All right, Mathew Pezon, welcome to the show today, Inner Edison. I really appreciate it.
Ed, thanks so much for having me.
And did I overemphasize your last name too much there, Pezon?
No, it was pronounced well. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a redneck. What do you want? And I really am. That's how I grew up. And I usually dress up in my black shirts underneath this. It's cold today here in Modesto. Where are you out of?
I'm out of Easton, Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pennsylvania.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. My wife's
Yeah, it's
from
the
that
Lehigh
area.
Valley area. Kind of about an hour north of Philly, about an hour and a half from New York City. So
Mhm.
kind of right tucked in that area.
I know
Yep.
where it is. I know where you are. So
Yeah.
I was just like, I know people from that area, but not many people know everything about that coast or that area. So,
Yep.
all right, a little background on you because not everybody's going to know who you are. They're not going to be part of Pod Match or one of those other things to know who you're coming from. But how? And please, this is not personal. But how old are you?
Yep. So I am 36.
Wow, you
Actually,
look
it's my
like you're
birthday
20.
yesterday. So
Oh,
yeah.
congratulations! You look like you're 26. That's why I asked.
Yeah. Thank you. I get that all the time. I
Yeah.
still get carded. So.
Yeah, well, when I was younger and I was, 21, nobody took me seriously. I wanted gray hair. Now I don't have much hair. I want to have hair and get it back. But it's funny how when you look younger than you really are, people really don't take you serious sometimes. And I was just curious to see. And congratulations on your twins.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, yep, they were born 2 weeks ago, yeah, especially when I was getting started and look younger, and we could talk about it, but the contractors and all the vendors, I mean, they see this who they perceive as some young guy, and there are a bunch of mistakes that I made getting started just by looking young and having people take advantage of that, so,
Well, that's too bad. But
yeah.
you learn from them, and we'll get into them.
Mhm.
But first, more personal. First children. First set. You said twins. Is this your first kids, babies?
So we have a 2-year-old
Okay,
and then the twins, so we have 3 under 3.
there you go. No, I
Yep.
just because usually the first one is the most. I had 5 kids, so the first one is everything's perfect, and then by the fifth one, you eat out of the dog bowl. Who cares? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, definitely over time as you get more and more and more and you get that experience a little bit, sometimes, yeah, the standards get reduced a little bit or lax. We're seeing
Right.
it already, so yeah.
All right. So let's get into what you do. And so, how did you get you're in the real estate industry, or you're not? Yeah, I'm just saying what you deal with is the real estate. How did you get into that? Was that something
Yeah.
your family was in? I mean, what's the background?
No, my family was never involved in real estate other than their primary residence, so, I wanted to start a business, I wanted to be successful in my chemical engineering role, so I come from a chemical engineering background, and, I quickly found after my first job that, my boss didn't like my performance, he didn't like me, he said the company should fire me, he wished he never hired me, and I knew at that point, and this was 2010, it was the depths of the recession. I had 50 grand of student loans. And I knew at that point I needed to make my own way. I just didn't know how. So I went to business school. I learned about debt and I learned about mortgages. And I thought, hey, I could get some of these things when I go back to the United States and start investing in real estate. And so uh, that's when I started buying homes, 2014.
All right. So you said back in the United States. Where were you?
I did my MBA in Spain. I did a Fulbright scholarship, so it was through the Department of State, and basically I went did my business school education, and that's where I found out about business.
Wow, Spain. Yeah, we did the Camino de Santiago
Oh, that's
twice.
great. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
first time, the from France route. We didn't do the whole thing because we had kids and we did 3 weeks worth of it. So a little over 200 miles the first time. And then we did the second one from Portugal.
That's
So
fantastic. My
yeah.
my mom did it this summer, the Camino, and she just loved it, and I did a few of the phases of it when I was younger, and it was great. Awesome. That's a
Well,
great
what's nice
experience.
about it is you can do it in phases. Like you can do the first part, do it, and then come back and do the next part and the next part over so many years. Because it is if unless you have 30 to 45 days, there's just no time to do it.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Sorry.
true. Well, and the scenery is beautiful, and there's so many. You meet people along the way. It's a fantastic journey. Yeah,
And
I loved what I did of it. So
yeah,
should
and
get
you'll
back
meet
there.
people from your hometown? And you're gonna go,
No.
what? Yeah, for me, I did. So we
Oh,
met
you're saying
people.
you did. Oh, man,
Yeah,
that's
I
great.
met
Yeah,
people
yeah.
from my hometown, and then some other people like
No.
so and so. There's further up ahead. We never caught them, but it was so many people from here or Oakland and other places. It's just amazing how many Americans you find across the way, and then how many other nationalities you find walking with and talking to along the way. And that's what my wife asked me to do it. And I said, okay, because what's the worst thing that can happen? I could just figure out what I'm going to do for the next 3 weeks and look at my life. And I listened to so many books along the way because I walk way faster than my wife, so she can't keep up. So
That's
she ended
great.
up walking with other people all the time, which was good for her.
Yeah, yeah. You could do your thing, she could do hers, but you're
Yeah.
still kinda doing it together, so,
How long
yeah.
were you in Spain?
I Overall, I've lived there 2 years of my life. Haven't been back recently, but, I did my MBA in Spanish, actually, so every negotiation, test, presentation, lecture. So I put the pause on the English button for a year,
Wow, that's
so
impressive that you did the whole thing in Spanish.
it
Did
was
you?
I remember in the beginning, I mean, I had headaches at the end of the day, you're really focusing, straining, but by the end of it, I'm still fluent, I could go back and do it again if I had to, but I mean, it was,
Were you pretty much before that spoke Spanish a lot, and or that's something you just?
so I studied it in school. So I double majored in college, so I had a really good foundation, but, I definitely wasn't as good in Spanish going into the program as when I left. When I left, I almost sounded, like a native, it was, as close as you could be with
Yeah,
learning it and not growing up with the language. But,
yeah.
I
I'm
mean,
just
that's
gonna
where I
throw.
learned about making mistakes, because the only way that you learn another language is by screwing up and having people correct you. And I it's probably around here, my bookshelf, but I have I had a little libreta, it's called, and I would write down all the words and phrases, and I would just everything I heard, I would write down, and if I made a mistake, I'd record it, and that was how I learned the language, just immersing myself.
Yeah, well, they say that's usually the best way. Now, my
Yes.
question to you is, why didn't you buy real estate over there?
Someday I might.
Yeah, and the reason because
Yeah.
all the little towns that we just talked about, like Camino de Santiago, are coming back, and they're looking for people to invest and get the little bed and breakfasts back. Because we stayed in this one that was done by the English couple, and
Mm.
I'm telling you, it was you walk up to it, looks like a excuse my language, a crap hole. And then they open the door, you're like, what the heck? You walk inside of the compound, and you're like, damn, this is a totally different world. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe someday. I mean, there's a lot of properties, and Spain was hit really hard, after the GFC, and they didn't really rebound. They're really starting to rebound, but not as fast as we did here in the States. And maybe someday. But a lot of my friends renovate properties there and things, and
Yeah.
it's just not something that I've done yet.
Well, maybe for the future, and we'll get into that.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah,
just saying because we found out that you could live comfortably on 30 grand a year,
yeah.
close to the ocean in some of these towns, and it's like mm, give up our citizenship and not have to pay taxes.
Right, right. Yeah, you really can. Things cost a lot less, and
Mhm.
things really, and you can stretch a euro there for sure. That's
Yeah,
what I did when I was a student.
yeah.
Paying like
The only
500
place.
bucks a month for rent, stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice place. It's really nice, and they're nice. It was different than when we did came from Portugal because it just seemed like the Portugal people weren't as nice as the Spain people were. I think it's because they rely a lot more on you, and where we walk in the Portugal route was along the coast, and
mm,
on the and it's like we're in their way. But let's
mm.
get enough about me and my travels of Camino de Santiago and everything. Let's talk about you and your travels. So you got your MBA, came back here. Your boss didn't like you, so you decided to start looking for something else. How did you get from there?
Yeah, that's right. So, when I came back, I still had no cash. I didn't have. I had an education, but I had very little as by way of investing. So, but I knew I needed to do something. So, one thing I did have was my car was paid off. So I then set about figuring out, okay, well, how do I get myself bankable? What do I need? So I need a good credit score. I need more cash, and okay, well, and then I needed education. So that's when I started listening to podcasts, and I met with local investors, and I would just go around seeing properties every Saturday. And After about 6 months of doing that, I finally pulled the trigger and I bought one. I'd been saving all along, living really low cost, skimping, trying to pay as little as I could in food and other costs, really buckling down. And that's how I bought my first property. It was October 2014. And my goal was just, let me just try to buy one a year. And that was what I wanted to do. Just save up for the next down payment and keep buying so that someday I didn't have to rely on an employer.
And you're still working at the time, correct?
At the time I was, yes.
Yeah.
And
Were
I
you married
needed
yet?
to, I was not I had just met my girlfriend, now wife, that summer. And so she remembers the first property. I remember telling her, hey, Anna, I have this deal that I'm doing. And she was like, what are you talking about? A deal? Like, is this a drug deal? What is this? It's like, I want to get into real estate. And I think we can buy this. Um, and she really got on board, which I'm so thankful for. She's been extremely supportive. We're a real estate family, and she's been on board ever since.
No issues during the period of time where, because how many do you own? All right, so that was 2014, right? So did you buy one a year from there forward, or did you just go and buy as many as you could get your hands on?
So I bought, after a single family, I bought a 4-unit and then a 2-unit. And then I bought a package of 4 properties, and I kept buying more and more at scale over time. Now I own hundreds of rentals, but at the time, it was, I just wanted to buy, I was just trying to buy the next one. And then I needed to figure out how to renovate properties. And then I needed to figure out how to finance the properties. And then should I sell them or keep them? And how do I manage these things? How do I pick tenants? So I had to learn all that. And I made a lot of mistakes.
And what was, give us an example of one of your mistakes.
Oh my gosh. I mean, letting the wrong resident, so not fully vetting applications, letting the wrong residents move into properties, allowing friends and family to move in after someone else signed the lease, not doing inspections to see if the tenants were taking care of the properties, hiring the wrong contractors that weren't doing work but were asking for payments, not checking their work. I mean, the list is endless.
So, all right. So you have hundreds of doors or hundreds of properties. How many doors do you
Doors.
have? Okay.
Doors,
All right.
yeah.
That's how you guys classify it. That's why I brought it up.
Right,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, some are like 10 units or 4 units
Well, those are
but
the bigger, the more units you can get, the better. The issue really is a lot of people, so you bought in a really good time where the market hadn't fully come back yet.
yes.
And that's the huge, I think one of your biggest saving points is the fact that when you started was 2014.
Yes.
Certain places didn't really come back until 2015, 16, 17. I know in other areas it was 18. 19 was when we started going up. And then
Yes.
2020 and 21, we went up. For us in California, where I live, we went up 22% a year. So we went up
Nice.
66% in 3 years.
Yep.
And
Yep.
people wonder why they can't afford a home.
Well, that's right. And the time was very forgiving for when I got started, because time really did kind of paper over a lot of the mistakes that I had made. Now, if the market were flat or even decreasing, it would be a different story today. But I did cut my teeth at a good time. Fortunately, you
Right.
just never know at that time if it is going to be a good time.
Well, and a lot of people, when you should buy all the time, because you never know. Because I know, like where we are, we're 2.6 million homes short in California.
Mm,
And there's about I would say 18 million now nationwide that we're short. So there's a huge need building of multifamily and single family homes for people to live in, and we're just not even keeping up, just because their builders are afraid what's going to happen if there's going to be something. Because today, with interest rates where they're at, it's
mm.
scary. A lot of people are like, I'm gonna wait till they come down. Well, if you see any of the old news reports that's been all over TikTok, they talk about 17% rates, and people are like, well, I don't know if we're going to get a 12 again, if we're ever going to see 12s, but 15 doesn't seem so bad, but today it's really 17. So, that kind of stuff. So it's relative. And over time, you are right, it's forgiving, because things always go up. there's only been 2 times in history we went down. That was the Great Recession, and that was a financial crisis. That wasn't anything else. And then the prior before that was really in the 91, 92, and that was only like flat. So we
It was a
pretty much
blip,
go up.
right?
Yeah. And we go up all the time. And so when people say, well, I'm afraid to buy, I'm like, you want to buy when people don't want it.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yeah, I mean, there's so much gold in there. Absolutely. There are very few times in history, if you look at any 10-year span, where the pricing has gone down. So it's, I saw that, and the way that I try to mitigate a lot of the mistakes that I made is, even though we know that pricing is going up or trending that way in time, there's so many unknowns and things that can go wrong. And so, trying to get a good deal in today's market is the best way to prevent mistakes. And I found that out the hard way as well, by overpaying for properties, losing money on flips, all that. So, even though it trends up over time, or pricing, you still have to be smart and protect yourself, and not allow someday to uh, mitigate the risk when we're making mistakes now. At least that's how I started.
No, and you're right, because you got to make sure that they pencil that you actually, you can cover the costs and everything else, because you can't go, I'm buying it. It doesn't matter if I'm taking a loss because I know the value's going up. That's not how people with what you do invest indoors. That's
That's
what
right.
people who don't invest indoors on a regular basis do.
Well, that's absolutely right. I mean, the math still has to make sense, because it's an investment, and there's I try to purchase at a basis that makes sense, where I can do repairs and I can provide a good tenant experience for the resident. Because if I overpay, sure, the seller might be happy, but now I have to live with taking care of my resident's home, and I take that responsibility very seriously. I invest, um, more than most owners would, but the way that I can is by, and to provide that good resident experience is getting an attractive price on the front end. So, that's the best way to mitigate risks. I mean, there's other ways. I mean, you need a good
Right.
team, you need the right financing, you need the right contractors, you need the right market. There's a lot of things, but, getting a good deal allows the property to sustain itself.
Right. I don't know if you know this, but with the multifamily, 2 to 4 unit properties, you probably don't buy much of those anymore, right? Or do you?
Actually, so I've accumulated, the majority of my portfolio is actually 2 to 4 families.
Okay.
It was more single families, but I'm starting to sell a lot of those, just because there's a lot of owner occupants that will buy them. But, the
Oh,
2 to 4 is actually predominantly what I own.
well, that one, because it's better. You lose a tenant, it doesn't hurt. You lose a tenant in a single family, it can hurt for, you lose a month of rent or this, and then you got to make it up over time, where the other one's a fourth of the rent.
Well,
The
yeah,
reason
and
I bring
there's one roof. I mean, there's one roof for 4, instead of for 4 residents, or 6, instead of
right.
one roof, or 4 individual roofs, and 4 individual boilers, and there's
We
just
don't have boilers
yeah.
here. We have hot water heaters and
Oh, true. Yeah, I guess it depends on your climate, but yeah,
you guys
there's
do,
just
because that's
4
how
more of
you're used to.
everything.
Yeah. But the reason I'm bringing that up is you're going to have a lot more competition going forward with individuals living in one of the units and renting out the other ones, because Fannie just came out last Friday saying they're going to allow 5% down primary residence purchases for the 2 to 4 units, instead of 15% down and 25% down.
That's really great news. I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me that. That's great news, because, there will be more. I mean, I own a lot of them already, so it might be harder to buy new ones. But
Right.
if I own the existing ones, I could sell them to those owner occupants, and then
It's
roll the
only
funds into the
5%
next
down.
deal. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Just kind of phase out of that time of the business.
Right. Or if that,
Um,
because you might want to get apartment complexes or other
Well, that's
things,
right. When
or
I
build
already
your
saw
own.
it happening with the single families, I stopped buying them. And now I still do buy them today if the deal makes sense, but I really started offloading the single families, because there's a lot of FHA buyers, there are a lot of first-time home buyers, and I owned the product, and I offered, it was fair for the market, and was a lot more than what I had paid, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So I transitioned into the small multis. So maybe now it's time to transition out of those too.
Yeah, well, it's just they, like I said, it starts November 1st, I think, is when they're gonna start
Wow.
doing it.
I'll look that up
So,
after this. That's
yeah,
fantastic. It'll help a
I'm
lot of
stay
people. Yeah.
yeah, well, get people in, if their first investment, they can buy. I always told them to buy units, but the problem is a lot of them, if we would go FHA, and that was great. But if they needed help by their family, like if they say they're going to college and they want to buy these units while these people are in college, and you have that one and whatever, the parents get involved, it gets flipped conventional then, and it's
Mm.
15% down versus 3.5% down. Well, now that's only 5. That's a huge difference.
Oh yeah, no, it's a massive difference. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And I have good friends. I help in San Clemente. You probably don't know where that is in California, but that's in the tip of end of Orange County, right before you get into San Diego County.
Okay.
And they bought a duplex a block from the beach,
Mm.
and I helped them about the same time you were doing yours, and they got it for 940,000,
Mm.
and now it's worth 2 million.
Ooh, wow, that's fantastic.
And he's like, I want to buy another one. I go, why didn't you do it sooner? But it's but
Yep,
they rent
time.
everything. They rent the garages out. They rent everything out. So everything's being converted in a one studio or whatever. So I don't know how it's a totally different, depending on where your location of what you do and how you do it is different throughout the whole country.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, yep. No, I mean that type of appreciation is fantastic. We've seen that a little bit here, but not like what you've seen.
No, that's a block from the beach. You don't get that anymore. You don't
Yeah,
make
that's
more
true.
beach, and that's the reason why those go up.
Oh,
And
that's
the
awesome.
biggest problem they have is people buy them and then their kids leave and kids come back and they can't afford. The
Mm.
average single family home is 1.5 million, 1.6 million.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a starter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wow. Different market.
Well, not where I'm at. I mean, we're about a nice house, is about 600,000. So.
Okay. Yeah, starter, I'd say like a starter single family here is probably you can in a good school district, you can find them for 350, 400, but maybe trending towards 450.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
our 350 to 400 is in the neighborhoods you don't want to live in.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
probably more like the, 100 to 150 here maybe. Yeah.
And it's weird because you guys been around forever.
Yeah,
I'm talking
yep.
about you're one of the first states, and people moved there first, and California and out west later, and the fact that you guys still have that price point available.
I know, it is strange, and considering how close we are to now it's changing. I mean, Allentown has seen well, and you must have heard of everyone's always heard of Billy Joel's Allentown song. I
Hmm.
mean, Allentown was depressed, and that's the city I was born in, and it's not, it's 15 miles from here. It's in the Lehigh Valley. I mean, it was a very depressed area. The largest steel manufacturer in the United States went out of business, and it was depressed for a long time. Now it's completely changed, but yeah, I mean, prices are coming back from very low. um,
Yeah, because my wife actually was born in Warren, Pennsylvania.
okay, okay.
Okay, and then she lived there. She doesn't remember because she was 1 when they left, but her family was still there, and that's the same thing. Smelting plants, right? It was all over the place. And then they closed them, and there was no industries anymore, and the
That's
whole
right.
areas went down. Even you look at what happened to Pittsburgh and
Mhm.
other Detroit and places like that, to where you can still get they were giving stuff away. They'll give it to you to move there and rehab it back in the
It
day,
was that
years
way
ago.
13, 15 years ago here as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the industry had gone, and it was that way for 25, 30 years when Bethlehem Steel left, and just the area was quite depressed. But it's really shifted. I mean, e-commerce logistics has with the proximity to New York, Philadelphia, this area has just blown up. It's gotten there's a lot of people coming from New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia looking for a more affordable cost of living, but still the amenities and the proximity to the big cities, and so the area has done well.
What's next for you? Because you have 100. How many are you trying to get by the time you're done?
Well, that's tough to say exactly, but I want to keep growing at the rate that I have been. I'm 36. I have a lot of energy. I want to keep going. So, um,
Are
there's
you like
not a particular number, but my goal is I want to buy enough to prove Billy Joel wrong. That song is all I listen to it from here, time to time, and I want to really rehabilitate and renovate this area and be a part of it. So there's not a number in mind, but I want to increase my impact and 10x what I'm doing now over the next
and
10 years. So
what's your work life balance right now?
that's a great question. Still figuring it out. We just had our twins 2 weeks ago,
Well,
like I
yeah, but I
told you.
can't
So
help it with
yeah,
the twins. I'm talking
yeah.
about work versus home, because the one person we talked about originally that I interviewed, a while back, He works 8 hours
Yeah, I
on
work 8
each industry.
hours.
Okay.
Yeah, I work 8 hours,
I'm talking now that's
typically.
all he does on a week.
Oh my gosh, oh no, that's a day for me.
That's what all he does on each individual thing he does. He hires people to run it, and
Mhm.
he just comes into each one for about 8 hours.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely like an architect type person. You know, you have a COO, and eventually I might get that to that place with my company, Pezon Properties. But right now, I'm working 8 hours a day. I work from home. Now I go out and do field training things when I can with the team. But I mean, it's to a degree a lot of all hands on deck at home right now. I mean, there's a lot of change. So fortunately, with my prior employer and things like that and other employment, it would be tough to be as available to family. So
Right.
that was one of the drivers for me to
Well, you would have
get out
got
of
your
my
6
W-2.
weeks.
Yeah.
You would have
What's
got
that?
you would have got your baby bonding time, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would have. Yeah. And then,
They didn't
and
have
I
that
would have been that.
when I was, had my first so many kids. So,
Yeah, it's changed. I did take a paternity leave when we had our son a couple years ago. So, but then between now and then I ended up just doing my own company. So I guess
right.
there's more leeway for me then.
Well, you're at home anyway, so you work from home,
That's
right?
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
And there's nothing like working from home I was working from home during the pandemic, and because my wife was at Kaiser all the time and my
Okay.
staff was here, so they didn't want to be home. And so I was at home. And then my wife no longer was at Kaiser. I mean, she was at Kaiser, but not working the way she was. So she came
Mm,
to the house and she's like, "You're too loud. Go to the office." So I sent all my staff home from the office and they've never come back. And that's what I like. And I'm like, okay, I have studios all built out in here for what I do. And I'm like, okay, this is a lot of wasted space. And now I'm looking in the next 2 weeks, I'm moving out of here. And what I
mm,
haven't found what I wanted. So I'm going to move back home because I got a huge room I can set up again. And, everything's so easy now with, roadcasters, everything we have, and to do this kind of stuff. And so it's the same thing. But where that's about what I'm doing. But what are you doing next besides going and burping your babies?
yeah. So I mean, the work life balance has been great that I've been able to find it. I'll still be based out of home for a while. I would like to get a little bit more field time with my team, my employees here, and do a little bit more hands-on training. We've been doing courses, online stuff, but I really need to be with them a little bit more. So now I should be able to. And but I'll be based out of home and really looking at the pictures, kind of coordinating things from a distance. But I plan to be based out of here for a long time.
Now, is every one of your doors in your area, or did you buy in other states?
Only in Pennsylvania, within about an hour and a half from where I live. So it's
Okay.
all pretty geographically close. I'm starting to buy down in Philly. That's about an hour and 10 minutes. Yeah, all the properties are within an hour and a half from me. So it's good because if I need to go, I can, but I try not to.
Right. Because I mean, you say your team, these are people who either go and renovate or they go and clean out when your new tenant comes in and out. They take the rents, that kind of stuff. Or do you have your own property management, or does somebody else handle that for you?
Yeah, I work with strictly third party property managers that I hire out. So I work with three different ones, and I found that having them coordinate the tenant interactions, payments, mostly minor repairs, even some capex, that allows me to focus more on doing deals and growing the acquisition side of the business. It's a lot of work to build systems and get all that infrastructure together. So up until now, I'm not interested in a management business, um, but that could change. But I don't think it will. I'd rather just focus on doing deals. So my team is I have two acquisitions managers here that are broken down by county in my area for who serves what area, and then I have 5 employees full time remotely.
Well,
So
good thing you're not in California because that would hurt you.
yeah, yeah, I think it's a little unique, but in California,
Yeah, it's the point where you don't want to have employees in California anymore. It's
yeah, I'm not too knowledgeable on the labor laws there, but from what I've read, I would assume you're correct.
Well, whatever you have now, just make it 10 times worse, and then
Yeah,
that's what we have.
I'm sure. Sure.
And the issue is you can't hire a contract.
Well, it's really everyone's almost supposed to be an employee now, even, it seems from what I've read.
You mean in California
Yeah,
or
yeah,
in
you
general?
can't,
Yeah.
it's hard to
No, but that's
1099
why
people
you
because they're
can, but you can do contract, but they just can't be in the state.
Oh, wow. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing in our industry, in the mortgage industry, most of the best processors are contract processors. You can
Mm,
have on staff, which is less expensive until you go through a cycle like we are now. And then
mm,
it's more expensive because your volume isn't there like it used to be. I would
okay.
do myself personally 30 to 40 families a month. And I'm lucky to do 4 to 5 families a month right now, just because we only, in our whole county, we had 286 loans close a month, and a third of that is going to be cash. And you
Mm.
figure, so that only allows about 1/100th of a loan for every person, every loan officer.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
competitive. I mean, it
Yeah,
seems like
people
getting
are still
volume is
doing it,
tough.
and just like I am, but it's not and anywhere near the volume you were used to and or available because the
Mm,
only thing you have is purchases. And if it wasn't for the refinance boom that we went through, there wouldn't everybody would have been saying for the last 3 years, this has not been a great year because
mm.
2020 was when we had our full purchase volume, and then 21 we went to half, and 22 we went to half of that, and now we're at a third of the existing home sales. So
I
we
bet.
normally
And then
do.
with the refinances drying up, it's
Yeah, I'm just saying
everyone
most
could.
people offset with that, or that's all they did. So we know
Right.
in California we normally do 450,000 transactions a year,
Hmm.
and we're going to be lucky if we hit 157,000 for the year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
It's
no,
a
yeah,
it's a tough
yeah. We
time in
have
the
no
mortgage
bubble.
business.
There's no bubble because there's no inventory. So and
Oh
your
yeah, I
yeah,
couldn't agree more. Oh, absolutely.
your inventory nationwide right now, we're only at 532,000 nationwide, which is normally like 1.2 million on a
Yeah.
normal market in 2015 market. There is no bubble. There's certain pockets of softening in certain neighborhoods and certain places, but there's no major bubble. One person who has to sell their house and has to sell their house is not going to change the market.
Oh
So
yeah,
the reason I'm
completely
bringing
agree.
that up is because I hear it all the time on TikTok. There's this dude out of Las Vegas. He's Chicken Little all the time. He's talking about how bad it is and how it's going to destroy. And this is the tipping of the bird. It's easy to be negative.
Yeah,
It's so easy. But the reason there's no sales is there's no inventory.
that's
So it
right.
must be harder for you to find properties now with the fact that there's a lot less inventory.
Oh yeah, I mean everything you said there completely true. I agree with it 100%, and it is the case. It's a lot more difficult to find deals now. They're there, and we're having to, and really we're seeing we're not doing less volume compared to last year, but we're paying more for each deal because it just takes more investment in marketing to do the same volume. The online ads, digital ads are getting more expensive. More people are trying to do that. Letters are saturated, other channels are saturated, and you're just having to compete for more and basically outspend the competition to get the deals. So there are deals, it's just that they're more expensive to get. What I'm
Right.
seeing. Yeah.
I see that. I sure
Yeah.
hope you're connected with trust attorneys.
Not too much. No, no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because guess what? Not everybody can. Most of those houses were hoarder houses.
yeah, every now and again, one attorney locally that did some zoning stuff for me. He has a client, and he brought it up, and every now and again, some attorney that I work with might bring it up, but it's few and far
I'm
in
telling you,
between. I try to
there's a
reach out to those attorneys, but they rarely respond, and it's mostly
just
just
send
through.
them a letter, a postcard. They have to look at the postcard to throw it away.
Yeah, I try. I should be more consistent with those attorneys because they do
I'm
come
just
across
a good
the
because one of
yeah.
the agents I do my radio show with, and we do a live Monday through Friday 8:30 about what's going on in the market. He's slammed because the only things that are happening right now are divorces, deaths, and job transfers. So he's busy because of the probate stuff. He's, the
Mm,
people passing away through trust. It's a huge market. They just need to know what you can do for them. Hey, I don't want all your deals. Just send me the ones that, the people it's a hoarder house. Nobody's going to want to clean it up. Nobody's wanting anything. That's what I want. You follow
yeah,
me? You
right,
just
right.
specifically tell them what you're looking for, and I'm only for this. and you'll get
Yeah,
more than you
I'll do
need.
that after this. I definitely need there are
It's
tons of
it's
opportunities, so I'll
it's
make a
just a
note.
it's just a suggestion. I mean, you don't have to take
Yeah,
what I say. I'm
yeah.
just saying it's a huge market that people don't even think about there because he's constantly telling me I just have to, clean up this place, clean up that place, and he doesn't even, he just does it for the attorney. But
Mm.
there's people who don't even want to mess with it, and here's some cash and see you later.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a great good potential customers for sure, so
Yeah.
and we do that. We send letters to people that are going through, either probate situations or, they're going through a divorce or, they have IRS liens or whatever. So we do reach out to those people, but I just haven't followed up with the attorneys more recently, but I should.
Well, I
I should.
just I just thought of it while we were talking. I was like, that wouldn't be a bad market, especially you
Yeah.
taking care of the whole town and put on there what the reason you're there is to offset what Billy Joel said about the town. You follow
Well,
me?
that's
Put that
yeah,
your mission for it on that thing. My mission for helping this our city is this reason. So if you come across this, I want to help you with that. So
absolutely. Yeah, no, that's true, and everyone knows Billy Joel around here, so
just when you make a lot of money off of it, just send me a Christmas card.
yeah,
Um,
I will, yeah.
all right, Matthew. Anything else you want to go over today that I didn't hit?
I mean, I guess one thing that I can leave folks with, I've made pretty much every mistake, and I know this is about those mistakes that really turn on the light bulb for that Edison moment, and I had a flip one time where uh, it went a year. It was a single family flip. It was like 1,200 square feet, and the contractor he was billing every week, and he lived across the street. So I thought, well, of course this guy's going to do a good job. He can, all he has to do is just walk across the street. No, there's no commute, right? So, and he would just come in, do a couple things, bill me, and it took a year because I didn't have draws set up, I didn't have a contract, and he was actually charging my project and then using the parts elsewhere for other jobs.
Hmm.
He didn't tell me about the oil tank, that it needed oil. And so then all the radiators burst in the middle of the winter and I had to replace all the flooring again. I mean, the list is endless. So just for anyone who's either getting started in this industry or any other industry, you're going to experience setbacks and you're going to have hardships, but it's how you react and build that grit and resolve and keep going. So that was just a quick story of a mistake I made. And uh, hopefully your listeners can not make those same mistakes. And if they do, push through. So,
Right. Question for you: if people have questions, what's the best way to reach out to you?
yeah, the best way is on my website, pezonproperties.com. And we have a form there. I would love to connect. We could meet for a call or, just talk about real estate investing. It's all I do. And I'd love to connect with your listeners.
I appreciate that. So reach out to Matthew Pezon Properties, and again, Matthew, thank you so much for coming on Inner Edison today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. All right, make it a great day. The best way you can support us is subscribe. So just click that button. Make it a great day.